start with your name.
Name is Douglas Ralph Lantier.
What year did you serve? What years did you serve?
I went in the Navy October 3rd, 1961, and got out October 3rd, 1968.
What branch did you serve?
U.S. Navy.
And what position?
I was an electronics technician.
Okay. Educational background.
I have a degree from Rider University in accounting.
Okay. Were you drafted or did you volunteer?
I volunteered in the Navy right out of high school.
And why did you want to join?
Because I didn't have enough money to go to college.
Okay. How did your family react when you told
My
them?
mother was upset and cried. My father was happy to get me out of the house.
So you went to the war straight out of high school. How did you get your degree?
Well, I went in the Navy. I got out of high school in June of 61, and I went in the Navy October 3rd of 61. And I went to different schools in the Navy, but during my last 2.5 years in the Navy, I was training reservists, and most of these reservists that came in a week and a month were in college. And I said, my God, if they can go to college, I know I could. So I started going to college at nights, and I got 24 credits that when I got out, I transferred them to Rider University in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. And then I started working as an accountant for McGraw-Hill in Hikestown, New Jersey. And I finished my degree 6-7 more years at night at Rider. Throughout my Navy career, I was first stationed at the Great Lakes called Boot Camp. And I went there from October 3rd until Christmas. Then I came home for 2 weeks. Then I went to Milton, Florida, or Whiting Field for training. And then I went from there to Memphis, Tennessee for 6 months of electronics school. Then I went from there to Jacksonville, Florida. And in Jacksonville, I was working on equipment, fixing it. And from there, I went to Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. And was in a flight crew there for 2.5 years. And during my time, I trained reservists, which would, these kids would come in a weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer. And I would train them on all the electronics in the planes, and then we would go on a 2-week tour, maybe to Yuma, Arizona, for jet bombing and gunnery practice, or we'd go to Pearl Harbor, Barbers Point, Hawaii, for training. But I used to fly, and we would drop supplies off in Cuba, and Italy, Africa, Spain, just to name a few. How I felt about the war was when we flew into Vietnam, I was afraid that we could get shot down. And we landed in Da Nang. And when we left, there was some ground fire. So when we landed in the Philippines again, there was some holes in our fuselage. The next time I went to Vietnam, the whole area that was there before wasn't there anymore. It had all got bombed. So there's a lot of people killed there, and you know, one time you'd see everything there, and then the next time nothing's there. I remember that.
The next question is, we learned that when people came home from the war, a lot of people didn't support it. like there were riots and protests. So when you came home from war, were you treated like respectfully, or were you not? Like, how did people treat you when you came home?
No, it was mostly the Army and Marines that got ridiculed for being in the war by the liberal fascists going to our colleges.
Can you please talk about the F-8 Crusaders? Your plane that you flew.
I used to work on a lot of planes. I used to work on jets, turboprops, on piston-driven aircraft, working on any of the electronics equipment.
Okay. And you...
So that they could work on the radar, worked on the direction finders, worked on the communications, electronic countermeasures.
What kind of planes?
Jets, patrol planes. The jet was I worked on a lot of jets, not just the F-8 Crusader. I worked on a lot of jets. And whatever came in, I knew the equipment, so we worked on it, fixed it.
Were you scared going into war?
I didn't go to war, really. I went to Vietnam. I heard the bombing and the shooting, but I wasn't in the middle of it. I was there to fix aircraft and to fix equipment on aircraft. So I really wasn't in the war shooting anybody, but you could hear it going on. And when you're young, you're not scared, you know, unless you were in battle and somebody's shooting at you, but nobody was physically shooting at me. So I didn't get nervous or anything. I thought about it though. I mean, it could have happened. I was one of the lucky ones, I guess.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
Your neighbor in Florida.
My neighbor in Florida was in Vietnam in the Army, and he was called to go in and kill a few Vietnamese because they had a machine gun set up killing people and snipers. So he went in and a grenade hit him and he got his stomach blown out and his leg blown off. And he got 3 Purple Hearts. And the Veterans Administration gave him a hard time about getting a replacement leg. And the Veterans Administration really sucked. One time when we were flying into the Philippines, you fly over the mountains and you come down real quick to land. And we were not, as we came down, we were not over the runway, and we had to really turn the aircraft quick and then come down quick, otherwise we would have been part of the runway there.
And one of the artifacts that we talked about was the discharge papers. So can you talk about those?
It's just a discharge paper. It's a DD 214. Everybody gets one when they get discharged. It's an honorable discharge. And it shows that I had gone to Vietnam twice, and I was in for 7 years. And I flew in a flight crew. I flew on patrol planes too, patrolling for submarines in the Atlantic Ocean. When I was in the Navy, we used to fly from California to Wake Island, to Guam Island, to the Philippines, into Da Nang in Vietnam, back to the Philippines, then to Japan. Then we stay over in Japan for 2 or 3 nights. Then we'd come back through we come back maybe a different route back to California. But on the way back, we would stop in Hawaii and we would bring back cases and cases of beautiful pineapples.
Surviving the war affected how you view your life here now?
Well, the effect is everybody in the United States has freedom. And they have this freedom because we go to war. And by going to war, we protect our country and our people here. A lot of people don't appreciate it, but until they go to war and see what goes on, or they live in a country where they don't have freedom, maybe they'll appreciate what they have here a lot more.